So, Goldfinger is the third James Bond film. Sadly, I had to skip number two, as I mentioned in the Dr. No video, because MGM Plus does not have From Russia with Love. However, this is without seeing From Russia with Love in forever. I can't really say if that one had more of the tropes, but this is the first one of the ones that I've been watching that had the James Bond tropes. The wacky devices, the incredibly silly named women. I mean, pussy galore. All right, Honey Rider at least could make sense. You know, I have met people who have had the first name Honey for real, not just a nickname. And well, I've never met anyone named Pussy. So, that being said, Goldfinger is the uh, Auric Goldfinger, which, okay, now you've given him a kind of wacky first name, and along with the last name, is a rich man who loves gold. I love gold. And he is trying to basically, well, the plot of the movie, it sounds like he's trying to steal the gold out of Fort Knox, but in reality, his actual plan is to release a dirty nuke in there, which would contaminate all the gold and make it completely unusable in Fort Knox, thereby breaking the U.S. economy apart. So James Bond has been sent to, discover this plan and, track down everything. And Auric Goldfinger is a pretty competent villain for the most part, which was pretty interesting. Unlike, I don't know, maybe some villains aren't as competent, but pretty early on, it seems like a lot of the bad guys James Bond goes up against are very competent, very paying attention to everything that's going on. And so James Bond gets captured and literally spends a good like 40 minutes being in the dungeon while he's trying to break out, but then getting recaptured. Uh, and of course, this is the film with Oddjob, which, if you remember the video game 007 GoldenEye, he was the character that most people said was off limits because you had to aim down to shoot at him. But in reality, in the film, he's not actually that short. Not like the companion to the guy from the man with the golden gun, but I'm thinking of like the one show. Anyways, so Odd Job is a mute bodyguard who is built like a tank. Now, in case you haven't heard of the IRL story, that dude went on to become a murderer. And that's not a joke, that is freaking intense. But in the film, he's a murderer. So I guess sometimes there's some symmetries here and there. Um, and he does everything that Auric Goldfinger wants, and he's willing to stay in Fort Knox to keep James Bond in there, even though he would die when the nuke goes off. And it was pretty interesting. You had the whole "I love gold" line, and of course, "No, Mister Bond, I expect you to die" when he's hooked up to the laser, and um, a lot of these things kind of reminded me of Goldmember, which now at some point I'm going to have to go back and watch the three Austin Powers films and see how they compare to the James Bond movies now that I'm refreshing myself on the classic James Bond. Because from what I remember of Goldmember, there's a lot of jokes and stuff that are direct parodies of things that have happened in Goldfinger. So, not just the whole sort of name scheme, but other things that were referenced. It's a lot of fun, and it's a very solid James Bond film. Which, that being said, a lot of them are. Um, and this one, of course, like I said, has a lot of the tropes. He gets the devices, he gets the cool car, the wacky female companion. And of course, yeah, Pussy Galore works for Oric Goldfinger and is a femme fatale. And yeah, it was a solid movie. And I can definitely see why this is one of the ones that really, really pushed forward James Bond as a series because not only did they get the tropes in line, it's just a fun film. It's a little bit snappier than what happens in Doctor No, and Sean Connery really is feeling the character at this point.